Hello friends, I'm KitaDollx and welcome to the channel. Have you ever been wandering around your backyard with your hoe and wished you could just till everything in one swing? Well, in the real world, you can only till one tile at a time, but in Stardew Valley, you can make a variety of improvements to your tools and weapons that will improve their effectiveness. One type of improvement is gained through weapon enchantments, but just how good are they? How do they stack up against each other, and are they worth the cost? In this video, I'll be ranking all of the different types of enchantments you can put on your weapons and tools, and hopefully we'll see what some of the best enchantments are for each tool. If you find this interesting, please like and subscribe for more videos like this, and let me know if there are other topics you'd like to see as well. With that being said, let's get into it. Not too long after unlocking access to Ginger Island, you will reach the Volcano Dungeon. On the 10th floor of the volcano, you'll find a forge that can be used for enchanting, forging, combining rings, or even changing your weapon's appearance. We'll just be focusing on enchantments for now. In Update 1.6, innate enchantments can also be put on lower level weapons, but they can't be put on Galaxy or Infinity weapons, and they don't compete for an enchantment slot anyway, so we'll leave them off this tier list. Enchanting a weapon or tool at the forge will cost 1 prismatic shard and 20 cinder shards. Cinder shards are found inside the volcano dungeon, and hopefully you've saved up a few prismatic shards by now too. The enchantment will be chosen randomly from the available enchantments for a particular type of tool, so you may not always get what you want on the first try. At least the forge doesn't repeat the last 2 enchantments on the same weapon or tool, so you won't get the same one over and over if you're trying for something specific. The enchantment order is baked into your save file, but you can play around a little by reloading the day if you get an enchantment you don't like, and try again with a different tool. Not all tools can get all enchantments, so you may be able to get around some of the ones you don't want by mixing up what tool you try to enchant. Speaking of getting the right enchantment, which are the best ones anyway? Let's get into the list already. First off, let's start with weapon enchantments. These are not weapon specific, so any one of them can go on a sword, club, or dagger. Sorry, but you're out of luck if you want something for the slingshot. First on the list, Artful. The Artful enchantment reduces the cooldown of special moves by 50%. This is essentially the same as the Acrobat profession, and they do stack multiplicatively. With both, you'll have a 75% reduction on your weapon cooldown. This is particularly good for club weapons, as their secondary slam attack is great for area of effect damage, but you can also generate extra normal attacks during the slam animation by spamming left click or the C key on PC. You can really front load a lot of damage this way, and it's probably one of the best ways of quickly dispatching enemies. Even if you don't take them out in the initial barrage, the knockback from the slam can give you enough space and time to prepare for your next hit. This will also help out your dagger's secondary attack output, but daggers take a bit more skill to be effective, so they aren't as commonly used as swords or even clubs. Still, for both clubs and daggers, this is going to be the best raw damage output you'll get from enchanting, and it's definitely what I would shoot for on any club. We're starting out strong with this one, and I'd say it earns a place in the A tier. Bug Killer. The Bug Killer enchantment doubles damage to bugs and allows killing of armored bugs, which are normally immune to damage. This one, for me, is not very exciting. As gross as bugs are, they're really not much of a threat by the time you have access to enchantments, and the armored ones in Skull Cavern are essentially non-aggressive. Aside from eliminating small inconveniences more efficiently, this enchantment is not worth a whole lot. I'll give it a D. Crusader. The Crusader enchantment deals 50% more damage to mummies, ghosts, skeletons, and void spirits. In addition, it allows you to finish off mummies without needing to use bombs. Being able to kill mummies without bombs can be a big deal. While mummies aren't generally the biggest threat, they do drop some decent loot, so being able to easily kill them with normal attacks is really nice. The 50% damage boost on these specific enemies is pretty good too. Skeletons aren't really an issue, but ghosts get knocked back so far, they can linger around longer than you'd like, so taking them out in fewer swings is always good. Void spirits become a bigger threat if you're delving into the dangerous version of the mines, where they can really gang up on you and apply some nasty debuffs. This is usually my go-to enchantment for swords, and I'd put it just below an A in the B tier. Vampiric. The Vampiric enchantment gives you a 9% chance to regain some health on a kill. The health regained is proportional to about 9% of the monster's maximum health. This might sound better than it actually is. The rate of healing is pretty low and it's not a guarantee. I definitely wouldn't want to depend on this, especially when food is already a very dependable way of regaining health. There is a very specific key quest that requires you to reach floor 100 of Skull Caverns without eating or drinking anything, and this might help you get through it alive. Overall, I'd rather just have better offense than a random chance to recover some health. I'm giving this one a C. Haymaker. The term Haymaker on a weapon might make you think this gives you the ability to throw a powerful punch. In reality, this weapon enchantment is the only one that has nothing to do with combat. It actually just allows you to harvest more fiber and hay when cutting weeds. Before update 1.6 and the arrival of the Iridium Scythe, I would often leave my scythes in storage to save inventory space. This actually made the Haymaker enchantment kind of handy for preparing hay supplies for the winter. Just cutting random weeds was enough that I didn't ever really need to cut any grass around the farm. Depending on what you're crafting, you may also want as much fiber as you can get for things like deluxe retaining soil, tree fertilizer, or grass starters. This is absolutely worthless when it comes to combat, but for utility, I don't hate it. If you're not big on mining and combat, like me, believe it or not, this might actually be your preferred weapon enchantment. Heck, it may be worth having one Haymaker weapon, even if you only unleash it once a year during the Green Rain. While not a great combat enchantment, I think I've talked myself into putting this all the way up in the B tier. Alright, that covers the weapon enchantments, so let's move on to the tools. These encompass the axe, the hoe, the pickaxe, the watering can, and the pan. Although, like I mentioned earlier, not all enchantments can go on all tools. So like the slingshot, sorry, scythe, but nothing for you. First up, auto hook. It may come as a shock, but the auto hook enchantment is exclusive to the fishing pole. It automatically hooks fish and junk when they bite. I like the idea of this one, but I don't think it really works as well as you might hope. I think we need to ask, why would we want this? I guess you could have really slow reaction time and you just don't want to miss fish, but probably more likely you want to multitask and don't want to have to pay attention to your Stardew fishing. The thing is, you kind of have to pay attention to succeed in the fishing minigame, unless you're catching really easy fish or have a really good setup for bait and tackle. Even then, you'll have to manually recast after the catch, so you can't exactly go entirely hands-free on this. Outside of niche uses, I just don't see this as being very good. Sorry to all of you auto hooker fans out there, maybe you can convince me otherwise, but if I'm going to go fishing, there's no hooker I trust more than myself. I'm giving this an F. Archaeologist. Do you like bones? How about artifacts? Well, Archaeologist will increase your chance of finding artifacts with your hoe and your chance of finding artifact troves and bone fragments with your pan. This sounds nice if you're trying to finish out your donations to the museum collection. In practice, I haven't had the best luck with it. If you're going for your last few artifacts, you may do better trading Omni Geodes in for artifact troves at the Desert Trader. I think whether it's the hoe or the pan, Archaeologist is probably outclassed by another enchantment later on in the list. It's also worth noting that the Artifact Appraisal Guide makes the artifacts you sell more valuable, so even if you don't need them for your donations, it's not a total loss. This is certainly better than nothing, and if you're specifically looking for artifacts, it will help, but I don't think I'd give it higher than a C. Bottomless. The bottomless enchantment is specific to the watering can. It essentially makes it so you never have to refill your can ever again. This one is pretty simple and pretty handy, but probably not life-changing. It's generally my preferred watering can enchantment, mainly because the alternatives are not super meaningful. Outside of the volcano dungeon, running out of water isn't really a big deal, but not having to worry about it at any time for the rest of the playthrough is pretty nice. Not much else to say. I'll put it in the B tier. Efficient. The efficient enchantment drops the energy drain of the enchanted tool to 0. This can be put on the hoe, fishing pole, axe, pickaxe, or the watering can. Having a tool cost 0 energy to use can be nice, but this is really most important early in the game when your tools are weak and you are weak too. By the time enchantments become available, you probably have gotten a few star drops and most of your tools have had several upgrades. Unless you've completely neglected a specific skill or tool and you're trying to catch it up, this probably won't be too useful. Even then, it's pretty easy to replenish a lot of energy with mid-game food options. It can have its place, but in general, I think most of the time you won't even notice you have it, and I wouldn't be super excited to see this enchantment pop up randomly. It won't necessarily be great for all of the tool options, but for something like the pickaxe or axe that can't be charged up, being able to completely ignore energy for one type of tool may be enough to earn this a C. Generous. The generous enchant can be placed on the hoe or the pan. On the hoe, it gives a 50% chance of doubling items after digging. It increases the maximum amount of non-ore items when panning, upping the cap for items by 2. This is my personal enchantment of choice for both the hoe and the pan. The hoe can really benefit from this, especially on Ginger Island, and especially when you get access to treasure totems. Treasure totems let you spawn a large number of artifact spots, so you can quickly stock up on Omni Geodes, artifact troves, or even golden coconuts, and with a 50% chance for double items, it really can add up fast. This is definitely a good one, but also probably not exactly life-changing. I'm going to put it in the B tier. Fisher. The Fisher enchant is just for pans and gives you a 10% chance to get a fish specific to the panning location. This is kind of neat, and I guess it's a nice little bonus, but if I want fish, I have a fishing pole and I won't be limited to whatever panning locations I can find. The main upside of this enchantment at the time of making this is that it can allow you to catch legendary fish this way, which would bypass the normal rules, preventing you from catching more than one of each of the original 5 legendaries. I don't know if it's super likely to happen though, and I don't plan to test it enough to find out. For the most part, this just seems like a small amount of extra money potential. I'm going to give it a C. Master. The Master enchantment is another one that's just for the fishing pole. It raises your fishing level by 1 while using it, which increases fishing rod proficiency, increases minimum fish size, increases the bobber bar height, decreases the time before a fish bite, increases the chance for higher quality fish, and can contribute to cast distance. This is just universally good for your ability to catch fish, and of all of the fishing pole enchantment options, I'd say it's the best, especially when trying to catch more challenging fish, or when trying to overcome fishing skill thresholds required to get specific items like the Iridium Crobus. I'm going to give this one an A. Powerful. The powerful enchantment increases the power level of the pickaxe by 1 or the power level of the axe by 2. This sounds great when it normally takes 10 hits to fell a tree or 3 hits to break a mining node. Unfortunately for the powerful enchantment, normal upgrades to your tools do most of the heavy lifting for boosting their power, and by the time you gain access to this enchantment, you'll likely already have gold or iridium versions of both the pickaxe and axe. The Iridium pickaxe already breaks a lot of rocks in 1 hit, and the ones it can't, like Iridium and radioactive nodes, are not super common anyway. The Iridium axe can chop down a tree in 2 hits and take out the stump in 1, so boosting the power level really doesn't save you much in terms of time or energy. It's better than nothing, but this wouldn't be my choice for either of these tools. I'm going to give this a D. Preserving. The Preserving enchantment is another fishing pole exclusive. It reduces the chance that fishing bait and tackle are consumed on use. The value of this is going to depend a lot on what kind of bait and tackle you're using. With the Deluxe Bait Maker, it's pretty easy to outproduce your normal consumption of deluxe bait, and most options for tackle really aren't too expensive to craft. Maybe one exception would be to conserve specific hard-to-get bait. Magic bait requires radioactive ore to craft or key gems to purchase, while targeted bait requires the sacrifice of the targeted fish. If you're fishing up pseudo-legendary fish for the Extended Family Key Quest, maybe conserving targeted Legend 2 bait makes it worth your while. Otherwise, it's not bad for saving a little money or even an inventory slot or 2 that would normally be used for spare tackle. Master edges this one out in my book, but I'll put this in the B tier. Reaching. Reaching can be applied to the hoe, the watering can, and the pan. It increases the charge up area of effect capacity for each tool to cover 5x5 tiles. This is another one kind of like the powerful enchant. Upgrading these tools to iridium already gives you a 3x6 area of effect. It's not quite as big tile-wise at 18 versus 25, but it's also more directed and longer reaching directly in front of you. An argument could be made for the convenience of a 5x5 area working really well with iridium sprinklers, but you only need to till and water on your first planting, and oftentimes not even then. As far as panning goes, I've never really had an issue with reaching a panning location, or maybe I just didn't care enough about missing one, but let me know if you guys think it's worth it for that. It just ends up not being very impactful for me in general for any of the tools, so for that, I'm putting it in the C tier. Shaving. The shaving enchantment is an axe exclusive that grants extra wood, hardwood, mushrooms, or fiddlehead ferns from cutting down the respective tree or stump. This actually can grant extra produce from giant crops as well, though I imagine most people would rather keep them for decoration than harvest them. It's basically granting you a small consistent amount of extra materials anytime you cut something down, and I can't really fault it. In fact, this is my top choice for the axe enchantment. Its usefulness isn't amazing, but it isn't really ever wasted either. I think it earns a B. Swift. Swift is an enchantment that increases tool use speed by 33%. It can be applied to the hoe, the axe, and the pickaxe, and I think the value of this enchantment really depends on which one you put it on. I'd say it's kind of wasted on the hoe. The hoe already has a large chargeable area of effect, so being a little bit faster probably isn't doing too much for you. It's maybe a bit better for the axe, but with an iridium upgrade only taking 2 swings to fell a tree, I think I end up spending more time waiting for the tree to fall than cutting it down. Unless you've got a lot of really closely spaced trees, it doesn't feel super effective for the axe either. On the other hand, the pickaxe benefits more from being faster for a couple of reasons. First, mining nodes are often really closely spaced and break instantly, so you can easily break multiple nodes without moving very far, which means you aren't wasting much of that extra speed bonus waiting around for your spoils. Also, since nodes can break in 1 hit or 4 to 5 hits for something like radioactive nodes, with the iridium pickaxe, it means the speed scales well with node difficulty without being completely wasted on the 1-hit nodes, like the powerful enchant. Since the pickaxe is also used for resetting tilled soil, this is the best enchantment for improving that aspect as well. I wouldn't make this my top choice for the hoe or the axe, but for the pickaxe, this is one you'll really notice, and I'd say it's the best you can get, so I'm going to put it in the A tier. Well, there you have it. That's all of them. It's a little sad to leave the S tier empty, but I honestly don't think any of the enchantments are that amazing, and it's a good way to put that in perspective. Remember, this is all subjective depending on how you play. As always, I would love to hear what you guys think. Which enchantments do you use, and are there any that you think should be ranked higher? Let me know in the comments what your favorites are, and if you agree or disagree with any of the rankings. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything new, please give it a like and subscribe, or come say hello to me over on Twitch. Until next time, goodbye.